took a trip to North Carolina, not for the All-Star game, but last weekend to go to Cameron Indoor Arena to see Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett, Coach K, Cam Reddish, play against the Virginia Cavaliers. And boy, did they see a game, and boy, did they see a block from Zion Williamson. Well, that raised a few eyebrows. The fact that LeBron and Rich Paul, and by the way, some other Lakers like Rajon Rondo went as well, to go see the Dukies play. Now, LeBron spoke to ESPN's Dave McMenamin about this, and here's what he said about people whose eyebrows might have been raised. He says, as some have questioned, a recruiting trip? I didn't talk to anybody. They're only saying that because it's Rich, meaning Rich Paul. When Shaq came to see me play in high school, when AI came to see me play in high school, they weren't saying it was a recruiting trip then, but because it's Rich Paul and LeBron, now it's a recruitment trip. He goes on. Now Rich is a threat to everybody, and look at it, and they want to keep trying to jab my agent and jab my friend. What is he doing that's wrong? They don't say that about no other agent when other guys go see players. They don't say that about no other agent but my guy because he's the threat. And then he says this. And he's African-American too. Throw that in there. No, LeBron. No. These aren't the reasons that people's eyebrows are raised when you show up at Duke. Let us go through this step by step. Now, first of all, you're right. Legends, NBA players, Hall of Famers go see the next big thing often, and they did for you, like AI and Shaq showing up. But you know what AI and Shaq were? They weren't you. They were basketball players, great basketball players, legends. Is LeBron James just a basketball player? No, nor does he pretend to be, nor does he want to be. He's a mogul. He's a media mogul. He's a powerhouse, now in LA, now in Hollywood. He's a producer, and he is a co-owner in a sports agency. You don't get to just be Shaq and AI when you want and be a powerhouse mogul when you want. You're both at all times. That's who you are. So when a powerhouse mogul and agency entrepreneur and all kinds of flattering words about the career you've built for yourself off the court, LeBron, goes and sees a high school player and then a college player play ball, people raise their eyebrows. So you see the difference between LeBron and Shaq and AI and that comparison and why it falls weak? And then let's go to the next part about Rich Paul, his buddy, his agent, his partner. He says they don't do it with other agents. They don't do it with other guys out there, but my guy, because he's a threat. That may be. That's the one part of this that I'm willing to admit. You may have a point there. Rich Paul's on the come up. Clutch is on the come up. It's big time. And other agencies are threatened by it, I'm sure. Other players in the basketball world are threatened by it. And that may receive unwarranted negative attention coming your and Rich Paul's way. I get that. I think that's a valid point. I want to be fair here. This isn't the LeBron James criticism hour. This is the let's be fair and tell the truth hour. And that leads us to our last point. And he's African-American too. Throw that in there. That is gratuitous, as far as I can tell, inaccurate, and weak. Why would Rich Paul's race have something to do with this? Has somebody made a racial charge? Has somebody made a racial suggestion? Has somebody said something in any way impugning Rich Paul in a way that is at all related to his race? I don't see that. I certainly don't see it in this instance right here. Here's why people raise their eyebrows. Be clear here. People raise their eyebrows because, as I've laid out, LeBron is a mogul. And second, they've seen Rich Paul and Clutch Sports already be very active when it comes to other big players. We only have to rewind the news cycle or this show 15 minutes. We only have to rewind the news cycle 30 minutes to see the influence and ripple effects of Rich Paul and Clutch Sports' influence. Dell Demps was just fired by the Pelicans. Anthony Davis just requested a trade from his organization. Anthony Davis wanted to specifically go to the Lakers, where, oh yeah, LeBron James plays. And Anthony Davis is represented by... oh yeah, Clutch Sports. Whenever something big seems afoot, earthquakes in the world of basketball and ripple effects taking place, and we see that Clutch Sports is involved, do you not think we're going to raise our eyebrows when we see you show up with no nefarious intentions? And by the way, if you are recruiting him, bravo to be a client at Clutch Sports. Just don't turn and play the victim. Don't turn and torture analogies. Don't turn and use bad logic to put yourself in the victim seat. You're big time. You're mogul. People walk in fear, and they certainly raise their eyebrows when you make moves. Own it. Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio. Will Kane filling in for Stephen A. today. Now, when it comes to LeBron James and these situations with ownership and Anthony Davis, the New Orleans Pelicans, NBA legend Charles Barkley had a few things to say last night on TNT. He said this about the relationship and the fine line we're walking here between owners and players. Listen.
I hear all these clients on TV talking about it's great that all these players are exuding these powers. Let me tell you guys something. Workers ain't never going to have power over their ownership. Ever. Now, it might work for a couple of guys here or there, but in the history of the world, no workers have ever overtaken the people who own a business. And when these guys are sitting home locked out in a couple of years, I want y'all to remember I told y'all that.
Charles went on to say, what happens when LeBron is an owner? Now, reports are LeBron James wants to be an owner in the NBA, not unlike Michael Jordan. What happens when that shoe's on the other foot? What happens when that management-labor relationship flips the other way? How will LeBron handle the situations? How will he handle it when the next big upstart? Huh? When the next LeBron James, and there'll be another big time. Maybe it might not be Giannis, might not be Zion, might not be Luka. Maybe it's younger. Maybe it's a kid who's in junior high right now, but he's got his own empire planned. And what happens when he starts influencing players across the NBA? What happens when he starts influencing one of LeBron's players? I'm just curious, when that shoe's on the other foot, how will that ownership, labor relationship go for LeBron then? You know what never goes out of style? Surprising a friend or loved one with buy one, get one free multicolored roses and bouquets for $29.99 from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. One last one on this Anthony Davis situation and how it's involved with LeBron and Clutch and the Pelicans. Again, it's Charles Barkley, TNT NBA analyst.
It's unfortunate. I've said before the season, I thought he was the second best player in the world, and he's a great person. But when guys start letting, that's like anybody who worked for me, I make sure they know they work for me. We don't work together, they work for me. Because you know what? I can get somebody to do what they do. They can't get nobody to do what I do. There ain't been Anthony Davis walking around. And the situation, and I said last week, and it's gotten worse already. This is a bad situation. It's a bad look for the NBA because that kid can't go out there and give 100% because he can't worried about getting hurt. The Pelicans ain't trying to win. And you see already, I mean, he's had less than 3 points twice in the last week. That's ridiculous. That's not a good look for the NBA. It's not a good look for New Orleans. It's just bad.
By the way, Anthony Davis had 3 points and 6 rebounds the other night against the Magic. And I don't understand what the Pelicans are supposed to do. They run him out there. He gets his shoulder hurt against the Thunder. They compromise their asset. They don't get the trade value back for him that they want. But they sit him. They get fined $100,000 by the NBA. What are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do if you're Gail Benson? What are you supposed to do if you're Dell Demps? Oh, that's right. If you're Dell Demps, you get fired for these situations. If you miss any of the show today, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith podcast, brought to you by Capital One. Capital One is reimagining banking, offering accounts with no fees or minimums that can be opened in 5 minutes. Capital One, what's in your wallet? There was a fascinating debate brought up by Scottie Pippen yesterday. You're familiar with it. We're all familiar. It's LeBron versus MJ. But Scottie Pippen weighed in yesterday on First Take, and it made me think about something listening to Scottie, listening to Max, listening to Stephen A., listening to this debate that goes on and on about MJ versus LeBron. It made me think about something. What happened to conversation about Kareem and Bill Russell, or for that matter, Tim Duncan? What happened to conversations about the big man in the NBA? That's next on the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio.
Gentlemen,